or the UC Board of Regents.
What is going on, everyone? Happy Thursday. This is Entrepreneur Nation on KCI 88.9 FM. I'm your host, Ash Kumra. This show is all about helping entrepreneurs, creators, and people who want to make that dream happen. We provide insights, we provide mentorship lessons, we provide interviews, which we're going to have a great one later on today. And we provide just that community feeling to know that you ain't alone in this journey. We are here to help you make that thing happen. You know, on a little news note, check out Wall Street Journal. The U.S. economy is actually stronger than it's been for almost 10 years. This is just according to the Wall Street Journal, according to census data across the world with various countries. And so what does that tell me? That it tells me that there's a lot of jobs out there, that there's a lot of people trying to work on their hustle. There's a lot of people raising money. There's a lot of people building businesses. So this is a good time to be an entrepreneur. If you're an entrepreneur, that means that there's a lot of marketing budgets out there that are increased. There's a lot of, sponsors, not an entrepreneur yet, but you want to work in the workforce and get some more experience, be an apprentice, or, you just don't want to work on your side hustle while you have something that pays the bills. That tells you that, hey, get a raise or look for something else. I mean, this is just I'm not an official lawyer or a job coach or anything of that sort, but I'm just giving you an idea that, this is a good time right now from a business economic standpoint. So this episode is going to be cool because we're actually going to talk about movements. We've talked about ecosystems. We talked about the need for why you need to have investors, why you need to have entrepreneurs, why you need to have service providers, why you need to have mentors, why you need to have people who want to just keep the community thriving. And happily Orange County has a lot of great partners in the ecosystem kind of things. But the thing that I'm really impressed with is when individuals believe in a cause, believe in something so bad that they want to make a movement out of it and make it into an actual business. Now, many of you know that I co-founded a company outside of this called Youngry, and I like to call it an entrepreneur movement because we create this evoking feeling that, I'm Youngry, and it's like this idea that, if you're young in spirit, hungry, and ambition, you can make it happen. That's an example of a movement. People who are with, let's just say, Lululemon I love to use Lululemon because they're a great example of capitalism tapping into mindfulness. It's so interesting because if you read the foundation of Lululemon, Chip, Wilson, he is a staunch capitalist, staunch, believer in the Ayn Rand kind of philosophy of, objectivism and self-interest, things of that sort. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but the thing I have to credit him with is that his belief in being the number one leader in what they did has helped create what is right now this movement within Lululemon. I mean, there's wellness and fitness associated with Lululemon. They've done such a good job of it. I mean, if you get their bags, it says this is yoga and it says all these things. It's quite impressive. But what I'm really impressed more than any of that, because, those are big business movements, is community movements. Causes, beliefs, and things that can really help you stand for something, get an idea of what it's about, and then taking action on it. On a macro level, I think the best movements we've seen that are on community levels are presidential elections. You look at Bernie Sanders, the movement that he created. You look at Donald Trump, or I should say President Donald Trump right now, with his Make America Great Again. You look at Hillary Clinton's campaign, Yes We Can. I mean, Obama's Yes We Can. We look at, Hillary Clinton's campaign, I'm With Her. Again, not a political conversation. I'm just giving you examples of movements that are mainstream that people can understand how these work. Movements that many times can shape a consumer's decision, whether from a product, or it can shape what you believe in and what you want to stand for. That's what's really cool about these movements out there. And I'm really fascinated with just how much more our country, our society, our individuals from a consumer standpoint, from a product standpoint, trying to create, getting their niche is driven by these movements, whether they're the macro like I gave or they're the mini, specific. But going to the community aspect, community movements interest me because, you can, love what you do. You can love this country. You can love this state. You can believe in products. You can be an entrepreneur serving a bigger audience. But are you affecting the audience that's within your radius? Are you affecting, the 10-mile radius? One thing I love about Instagram is that if you advertise on Instagram, not only do they have an automatic feature, not only do they have advertise at a specific, place, whether it's Austin, Nashville, But they also have a local advertisement feature. And I've been playing around with this, and I've seen a lot of good traction with this, with some content that I've pushed out on the Instagram front. They have this 5 to 30 mile radius, and I find that really cool. So what I would ask you is that if you have a business out there, or you have a cause, or you have some idea, are you affecting that 5 to 30 mile radius? Or just to be let's be a little more simple, like 10 to 20 mile radius of where you live. And I feel that as an entrepreneur, if you are connecting with that local 10 to 20 mile radius before or concurrently while you're building the macro audience, you have a good chance of building those diehard people. Because the thing about movements is that people who support movements aren't necessarily tied to it from a monetary standpoint. They're there as if they're a founder of it, or they're a partner of it, or they're a promoter of it. You know, these movements that I mentioned on a macro level, people spend hours, months, years, for some, volunteering for causes that are movements because they feel connected with that message. They feel connected with the people who created it. And, you know, here's some tidbits that I've learned about movements is when you create a movement, you have to create something that is, you're the original founder, or, you know, founders, or the people behind it. But at the same time, you are also kind of the catalyst to create the vision, but then be able to hand off that vision to other people. You know, a great, you know, example of this is like Reddit. Reddit was started by some individuals, but you know, they've always been staunch about their vision. You know, the founder, Alexis Ohanian, is a particular an example of this. But also, they believe in, you know, giving the power to the people in a way, not in a political way, but just giving the tools. And the Reddit communities are just thriving. I mean, you see, it is a movement, though. People swear, live, and die by the Reddit movement. I mentioned Lululemon. I mean, Nike is a great example. Nike single-handedly has shown that you can mix a cause with a business movement. Think about this. They sell product. They sell shoes, okay? They sell all these things that people need, or maybe not need if you have excess of it. And then they were able to suggest to people that we support a specific kind of movement. Because of that, you know, support Nike. And the stock went up. More products were bought by a specific demographic. There are also some other specific demographics that did not support it because they didn't connect with that movement. But it's capitalism masked within a movement. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just how movements are in the business world. You have to find ways that make money as long as they're done authentically. Nike authentically believed in this latest movement with Colin Kaepernick and things of that sort. And I give them props for that because they had the courage to do that. But don't get it twisted. They didn't do this for the goodwill of just the people. They did it also because they are a business and they needed to find a better way to engage with their target demo. And they did it, and I'm happy for them, and I'm happy for, you know, any social proof or any goodness that's come out of it from a social impact standpoint for people who feel that they needed that. But you as an entrepreneur can do the same thing in your own authentic way, where you can connect with your user base and find an idea, find a cause, and just continue to do what you're doing, get really good at it, and at the same time, you know, do that movement of what you're talking about. And, you know, just for those who just jumped on, I know we just got the Live Nation here. This is Entrepreneur Nation on KUCI 80.9 FM, and we're talking about how to create a business movement or a movement within your own community or communities, whether it's locally, nationally, or on some, you know, global scale, like a, you know, some of these, you know, ideas or messages behind it. And you know what's great about movements is that movements is not just for the for-profit sector. Movements can be on the, you know, it can be on the nonprofit sector, can be on the impact sector. If you look at some of these, I mentioned the political campaigns. At the end of the day, they are a nonprofit. It is you give the money and it goes to the government or a government affiliated, you know, nonprofit, and that money is to support a presidential or a congressman or Senate woman or whoever it is, and your money goes to a, you know, a nonprofit kind of corporation. So that's an example of that. You know, nonprofits, specific nonprofits do this with movements. You know, some of the best campaigns that you've seen that have had people say, hey, I believe in this cause, I'm going to go help support this movement. That is helpful too. And that's what's really cool about this idea of a movement. But, you know, some of the things you have to think about again is, you know, find that common vision, find a cause, find a way where you see the world going. Find a way that you can communicate that to people in a way that are like, okay, I do feel like I'm a part of this. I want to be a part of this. And number three, find a way to have people take action. It's going to be cool about our guests at 4:30, and I'm totally not going to say anything about it because I want you to be totally surprised by them. It's definitely more of a wild card for some of the guests we've had, because I'm fascinated with what they've been able to do with a local community movement that they've built. But the thing I've learned from them, and you'll see this when they talk about their journey, is, find a way to get a call to action from the user base. It's not just a I create, you see mantra, especially in media. It's more like I create, I want you involved kind of way. And what do you think? Or how can I make this better? Or how do you want to be part of the conversation? I like that being a part of the conversation. It's a very common marketing term that I'm seeing more and more of in this kind of light of things. But, that's something for you to think about as well on that side of building a movement. And, movements are all scales, and they can be whatever you think it is. And what's great about movements more effectively is that it's viral. It's kind of like blockchain or the decentralized networks. If a movement's working, there's no way to stop it from one source. Like it's everywhere. It's spread out. It's all over. It's on social. It's on print. It's on word of mouth. It's run through different people. It's different geographies. That's what's cool about this whole concept of movements. It's a very bulletproof way to make your brand shine far beyond just one specific channel, and it's a way to make it expireless, or to keep it continuously to be relevant. If you can find ways to keep the movement relevant, it'll never go away. And by the way, the longer it stays or the farther it goes, the more people join the movement, because people are so passionate about the movement, they go tell other people about the movement, and boom, you have this bigger movement. You know what I mean? So as you can tell, I don't like movements, right? No, I'm a big fan of it. I feel that movements are the future of how especially in the consumer side, this business economy is going to thrive, where you stop looking at things not just as a brand, but look at things as a movement. Like, how can movements shape and move our decision making? That's what's really important about that. In a few minutes, I'm going to play a little break before we welcome our guests. But just think about that. Building these movements is so essential. And it's really cool, because with movements, you really have to also stay authentic. If I could leave one thing to talk about movements, the ones that survive, the ones that thrive, it doesn't matter what you might like about it or not like about it, because there's one movement for every kind of person. It's the ones that do well are the ones that connect with that specific audience or demo. They're not a general thing. I'll be vulnerable for a second. When I first launched, Youngry, for an example, and I've seen this with some other entrepreneurs, you get obsessed with, oh my goodness, we want to help people. How many people can we help at the same time? And, at first we were just like, we want to help all early stage entrepreneurs. And we did this content platform where we were providing news content and things of that sort. But, it didn't really click that well. We had great editorial, we had great content, we had great contributors. Our branding was on fleek, and it still is. But, we realized that we were just being too macro from our content and our events. And then I realized, our team realized two things. One is, we have to really sharpen the audience demos. We really are focused on that millennial Gen Z demo, the real idea when you think of Youngry. And number two, specifically, what is our movement going to provide? And for us, it's informal mentoring or mentorship, things of that sort. So, ever since we did that, it's like we started from scratch, and slowly but surely, not everything just goes from 0 to 100 real quick, but it's been growing, and it's moving smaller and slower than normal and than when we first did it. But you know what? I can't tell you how happy I feel, because it's authentically moving the right way. We're doing less things. That's the other thing about movement. You have to say no to, you have to master the power of no. Do more with less. And what I mean is, you have to be hyper focused. That you just have to, that one thing. I'm not specifically quoting that book by the Keller Williams guy, but it's a great book. But my point is that you gotta really focus on that one thing. What is it that movement does? What is it that you want to do with this movement? What is your, and then of course, what is the end vision behind it? And the end vision is not some reach a certain destination. It's kind of a bigger movement. We're not stopping till we mentor 1 million entrepreneurs, or we're not stopping till we transform 100,000 people with weight loss. I'm just giving you some examples that are they're called what I call stretch goals, where like you're reaching it, I mean, they're reachable, but they're not. You're not going to reach it instantly. You know, you gotta do that. I mean, in the business world, I mean, I know Microsoft was like one desktop for every consumer in the world, and Facebook wants everyone to be connected socially. I mean, there's all these bigger business movements that you can learn from. Lululemon is like on the health and wellness kick. I got to double check on the Nike side, but it's really good. Someone on the Instagram Live Nation had asked, you know, what is the name of the book? I couldn't hear the name. It's called The One Thing by, just look up The One Thing, and it's by one of the founders of Keller Williams, the global real estate brokerage firm. So yeah, that's what I would say about the movement side. And lastly, you got to let go of the movement. You're not exactly in love. You got to be in love with the idea, but you also have to be a participant and understand that other people will make it what it is. And that's what's important about it, because this movement is going to go everywhere. Again, I like the reason why blockchain and these concepts like decentralized network, it's not just doing good because it's cool and it's like matrixy and it's like against the system and it's not letting government control to a certain degree, but it's because it goes everywhere. It's decentralized. Like everyone is a part of it. There's not one person in charge of it. They're all part of these different movements. It's such a interesting concept, but that's why the blockchain concepts work so well with people. You know what I mean? And you know, I'm really just enthralled with that whole kind of opportunity and, you know, how things work. But on that note, I'm gonna play a little music and then we're gonna get our guest up. But thank you again for tuning in for this first part, and we'll be back. Thanks.